guys like the song, but alright. So we're getting straight to what we were doing. I had to take a break really quick, and we're back at it. So let's catch up on the last thing we did here was trying to get the basically the things that has already been downloaded, and then set the things that has been installed. And this is the function that we made. This function is going to compare two arrays, and based on the installed packs excuse me, and the mounted, we're gonna go ahead and make a decision whether we try to get that array and process all the chunks in them by mounting each one of them to the game, or we could just say, you know what, it's already there. We could go ahead and ignore it. There's a problem though. I have to look into that function. I believe that this function could be a temporary function and is not like a one-time thing. So I have to do some reading on this. The code is not really available. I'm not really sure how to read the C++. I think it's, oh, okay. Alright. Because I clicked it and it didn't open at first, but okay. Where is this function? Okay. Right. I checked this like multiple times, and it really doesn't say anything. So we're gonna prepare for the worst cases here. Okay. So this is one of the functions that we're going to be using a lot, and this is basically is it installed? Basically, it's a function that would return for us an array. So if you look at it on the outside, you basically feed it a type, and it gives you an array. Okay, that's all it does. And if there isn't any more, like there's nothing in that type, like that type is already installed, is going to go ahead and give us an okay, yes, we're done. If not, is going to go through all of them, and if there is at any point there is a no, so at this point this is installed, this point is installed, this point is not installed, and there's an issue. Okay. And also we should have a false as well right here. Oh, we're not even doing any of that in here. So that's great, that is good. So this is when we get a good, and this is when we get a false. So the false is going to be like, hey, the array doesn't exist or is not installed, and that is the false. So the false is not actually installed, so we connected it this wrong. That's why I had a feeling something was going off here. This is a true. this right here, it's a false. Okay. All right. Making don't underestimate the true and false in a function. It gives you an entirely different game. Careful. It seems pretty easy, but the decisions could be tricky. So, all right. Okay, and like I said, this is not gonna do anything. This is just gonna go through all of them, and then in the end, we're gonna get a true. Okay, so this function looks really promising. Not only that, we could even run this into a for each. So it gets really complicated, I know, but and this is why we created these functions to begin with, is that we're gonna eventually need it here. You see? And the types are gonna be all the types inside of the yeah, this. So installed. Okay, get installed, and I wish I could do like key in here, keys, and that would be, I believe that would be all the types. So all you have to do every 5-second loop this, okay, and here we're going to do for each. Yes, just like that. How we're gonna exit this, remember that name, which is this one, because we're gonna need it. And then right here, we're gonna say clear. That's it. That's the only time we get to clear it, is that if everything is good. That's it. Every 5 seconds, it's gonna go through all of them, and it's gonna run all this stuff that we did. It's a lot, but necessary. Okay. So let's recap this. This is gonna be I don't even know what to call it. So since we use it a lot, is this is gonna be in mount types, and then in mount types we're going to go ahead and we could call it resize array. We can call it compare identicals arrays, so comparing arrays. We could call it that, or we can just we can call it struct missing chunks. Okay, or yeah, struct not struct generate maybe missing chunks, because we're basically adding them into an array and then we're feeding that array out. Okay. Okay, so we get the types, and then for each one of those types, okay, the reason why we didn't add the for each in here, we could do something like this, okay, because I know how you guys are so picky about blueprint and shit. Okay. So you would like to add as many as you like, right? You want to have that freedom of, you know, the choices. So the types are going to be an array. Huh? are happy now. And then you don't have to feed it like that for each anymore. And then after the clear of all this is gonna be on here. So this is when we check if everything went good or not. Is gonna go for each one of those is gonna go through this whole thing, okay? And if it doesn't exit here and it keeps going, is gonna eventually come to an end. If it comes down to an end, then that means we're good to go, and we could we still have we still have it. I mean, we could always we're still gonna get it here. So all right, so find reference. We're not using it anymore, so we could get rid of it. We're not using this anymore, are we? Nope. And we are using chunks, mounted, and mounted. Mounted we are. And then this one, I don't even know where that is. Okay, we're not using this one. What? Why types? Oh yeah, because types is no longer a thing. So we're gonna have to set it. So here's what we're gonna do. Types. Okay. Bam, boom, and bam. Okay. Now we should not have any issues. Why? Oh yeah. Okay. Come on. Oh, why is it? Oh. So this is going to be types. Okay. 1 second. Okay. This is going to actually be renamed. And then this one is going to be types. I don't think I could rename it. Yeah, I can. Okay, that's it. Okay. If you wanna do something like this, you're gonna have to do make array, and then you just feed that into the first one. So that's how that works. So right here, we're gonna finally be able to feed the entire array like it's nothing. Okay, and then we can like always go through them. So we're basically every 5 seconds, we're checking the arrays that is installed, and we're running this function. This function is gonna go through each one of the types. Okay, each one of the types. And it's never gonna end, so it's just gonna keep going. It's gonna check every single one of the types. Is going to generate a did I call it mission? Missing. I meant to say missing. I called it mission. Alright, yeah, gotta be careful. Okay, so generate missing chunks, and then after it generates the chunks that we need, is going to go through each one of them, is going to get the chunk, the individual chunk, is going to try to mount the chunk to the game. If it succeeded, then we're good. If it didn't succeed for some reason, it's going to return false. Here's the problem, is that we don't want to return false and exit our function we want to be able to check what was that issue. Okay, so on the return here, this is going to be a little bit not cool to work with. As far as like returning right now, we're not sure if we want to return like this, because we just want to keep trying, because this would just keep trying, and it would never stop until it gets it right. Okay, so if we have the array, we continue. If we don't have the array, then it's just not going to do anything. It's just going to exit. It's going to continue for the next one, exit, and that would be like a release before the for each. Okay. All right, so with that said, if we don't get like here, like if there's an issue here, we're gonna start debugging. Like we're gonna start understanding why our system is not working the way it should. Okay, so we're gonna grab one of our debugging thing here, like this. I'm gonna grab that, and all we have to do is come in here, paste it, and then just let's go ahead and read what's going on. We could even like do it on the inside, so we don't have to worry about like so this is the only case that we care about, like checking what's going on. Otherwise we're good. This is going to be different, so we're gonna get rid of that one. We're gonna make this one, okay, and then we're gonna append, and we're gonna say issue mount issue with type, and then okay, and the type is going to be the name. We can then say this here, and also append, and we're gonna put an enter, and we're gonna say path was mount, path was, and then space. I meant to add the enter like that, and that would be the path, just to check what's going on here. That's it. This is my own custom debugging thing. I would create an entire tutorial just for this one. So let's see here. Excuse me. All right, so far so good, right? We have when do we create this event, right? So now that we have the timer, and it's going to check every 5 seconds, not 5 minutes. So every 5 seconds is going to go ahead and go through this entire types, and we're gonna go ahead and check for each one of them. We're going to go ahead and check each one of those types from the save game, trying to make sure that those two are added or removed correctly. And if they're a match, then if they are not a match, okay, it makes a huge difference. Alright, so if it's not a match, then there's something wrong and we need to go ahead and correct that issue. I would rather to clean things up a bit because it gets really crowded and confusing at times. And then the complete is going to go ahead and proceed forward, and we're good. Okay, so with that in mind, we're gonna end up with an error. If we go to what happens after that, sorry, I'm very picky. Chunks mount out, and we're gonna go ahead and go for each one of them. We're gonna try to mount it, and if nothing goes wrong, hopefully, then we're gonna go ahead and add it finally to that array. In the begin play of every game, if anything went wrong with Google and Google didn't accept the system, we're gonna eventually end up like resetting this save game, or not load it, or reset it, because we're gonna load it. It's already in the save game, so it's already been saved. We're gonna go ahead and reset it on every begin play to make sure that it doesn't get run. It doesn't get included into the save game, but we still want to load it though, you know. So anyways, we're gonna make like a checkbox, so that way it would be easy for us to reset it or keep it as is based on the begin play. When you start the game again, it is going to either remember or forget. We're gonna try remember first, and we're gonna package, and then if it doesn't work, we're gonna not do that and then try it again. And that is how we could tell whether this is a one doable function or a function that has to be redone every time. Now that we already added it in here, it's going to go through all of them, and eventually it's going to run out of types to do, and is going to call it a day, and that's it. When do we get a false? Okay, when do we get a return false? We don't ever get a return false right now, because if we exit at any given point right now, it's going to be a problem. So we don't really need the, like, all those checks that we're doing is to not check things that are not necessary, right? But it doesn't mean that we don't need them. We do need them. Like, for example, this check, I do need them, but I don't want to exit. I don't want to return anything to the user. I just want to check, is it or is it not, right? Because if it's not, then let's go to the next type and check it, because there's nothing for us to do here, right? So usually you're gonna get a yes. This check is pretty precise because we're checking every single chunk and checking if that chunk exists on the installed thing. So if it's already there, we're gonna go ahead and if it's not installed, we could even say, instead of like that, so we're basically checking if this single file that is not, it is included in here. So we can say bigger than, and that would work. We could also do not equal -1, but then, you know, you never know, even though there's no -2. But is there? Yeah, there is. So like, let's just say if it's bigger than anything above negative, because anything above negative would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you know, whatever. So that would work. Okay, so there's the chances of getting a false here is because it is good. So this is the only time, like this is what really, okay, so these two right here, it's different. Okay, if this is not found in here, okay, then that means this array hasn't even been configured to match this one completely, and that would return a false instead of a true. And this one is actually a true, but it has a different situation than this one. So with this right here, it is equal, we're good to go. So here's what we're gonna do. The false is gonna be we're good, okay? We don't need to check anymore. The true is going to be, we need to process this. We need to actually go through it. We're gonna take this out and ignore it. The reason why is because this is a problem. Like this right here, it's not gonna return. It's not gonna even like know anything about it. So we should ignore it. We should like exit the function at this point and not do anything. And that is the entire type. The problem with that is that if we trigger something like this, we get stuck right here. But then if it's probably going to continue with the next one, with the next for each, which is great. But and also that gives us the ability to we're still not going to return anything. Like even like if we did this, we're not going to return anything here because everything is returned here. So it's just going to go through the entire array, and the only time that we get to return a false is right here if there is a problem. So instead of like doing this, I would like to use this better. Okay. Okay, how about this? We're gonna have a local boolean, okay? A local boolean that does nothing, but this is going to be passed, okay? And this passed is going to be a branch, okay? The branch is going to basically kill the timer if it's passed, okay? It is false, so by default is never going to kill that timer, okay? And it's gonna return false. Okay, so now we have actually finally a return. Are you guys happy? All right. So passed, if it went through all of them, and it's by default is a passed. However, if at any point this right here gets set to false, then we have a problem. Okay, when this would be get set to false in this scenario. Okay, everything else is good. Like this here is good. Okay, this is gonna be ignored, but this one right here is a problem for us, so that's why I'm going to keep checking. Okay, in that case, that means the mount didn't really exist, and the installed pack does not match what's in here. One second. The mount pack is never gonna exist. I'm gonna take that back. This right here is a dangerous check. That would really mess things up for us. So I really don't care whether you find it or not, because the problem is that you're going through each one of them. Instead, we need to flip things over. We need to go through each one of those instead. So this right here is going to be right here, and this right here is going to be right here. We just flip them, that's all. It makes a huge difference because we care about what's installed and not what is mounted, because there's nothing mounted yet, right? This is what confused me a bit. So we're checking everything that is installed in that type, okay, and checking if it was found in the if it did already exist. So we're gonna have to flip that check here. So if it's found, is going to go ahead and return anything but a -1. So if it is bigger than, so it is been found, is going to go ahead and return true. If not, it's going to return false. And if it's not, if it doesn't exist, we're going to go ahead and try to add it, and this is when we process those chunks. Okay, sounds good, right? Okay, now we don't have to worry about really so at this point we're getting actually a true, and this one is false. However, the false is actually we're good to go. So the false is like, hey, we passed. So this is great. So this is actually passed. So this is gonna set passed, but we don't need to set it because it's already set. When do we set this to false? Is in this scenario, which is right here. Okay, and this is the false. So it's been a problem, there is an issue, something hasn't been mounted, we don't know what, but is inside of here, and we should debug it with this debugger. Okay, so we're good to go here. I know I could have designed this better, but guess what? I'm not going to. Okay, so we spend enough time in this system, hopefully we're ready. So the begin pay is gonna process this function, is gonna go through everything, save game, check, debug, request, debug, get something, mount type, this is the type, this is the only type. Check if it's already installed. If not installed, we'll go ahead and try to download it. The downloading is straightforward, boom, 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 boom. And then it adds it like right about here. The adding is just a local type. Save or remove, it is valid. Save game, if it is valid, save game, let's go ahead and continue. If not, let's go ahead and load it, which we don't have to do this, by the way. There is actually a function that we made. That function is right here, this one. So why would we like create a function that is so clean like this and then create it again, right? It just doesn't make sense, right? And that's exactly what we're doing here, is that in this function, instead of like, because we're so worried, we're afraid of using this function because for some reason, or we forgot that it exists or something. We should have a return though, but this one is not going to give a return, but we're gonna go ahead and set it just in case, because it could give us issues. So this is going to be a true, and the false is right here, this one. So just in case we had some issues, we have to kind of exit. Otherwise you will crash. Okay. Right here it is basically doing the same thing as this. I'm not really sure what I was thinking at this point, but maybe two different timing, or maybe the asset delivery is different. No, it's the same thing. No. So this is useless, this is useless, this is useless, and this is true. Huh? So only it's a small function now. Okay. Things are starting to look pretty. Alright. And then in case something went wrong here, okay, let's just do a branch. Okay, and just return a false because something just is not working for some reason. Okay, and it's also here true. Okay, true. If this is false, ignore it. Okay, great. I'm checking each one of the type. See? And then we remove it. Because you might have multi of them, because those are strings, so you might actually have multi of them. And when we are adding them, we're also checking to make sure that it's just only one that is added. You don't have to do this. I'm just saying, you don't. But it's just in case, because like you see how we're saying that if this one is equal or is not in here, it's not equal -1, let's go ahead and add it. Sometime that could, maybe there's like 1% chance that this would go wrong. Okay, let's continue with do once. Do once, we're setting the types. We set the types all the way. Where did we set the types? The types, oh yeah, we set the types here. Okay, so now the types are set. Okay, and we added that extra type. Now let's go ahead and grab those types from an area that is never going to be entered until we're done. And we're going through each one of those types, and we're going to go ahead and try to download it, attempt to download, request download. This is the green. Go. And we somehow understood that we requested the download. We're not sure what's going to happen after that. We could also, even like after requesting the download, let's make sure that we did get no arrow to continue before we continue this. If we got anything at this point, we're gonna debug and exit. So if we got like pack is unavailable, download not found, or anything like this, or asset pack initialize needed, this is the one that we might actually face. So we need to figure out whether we want to check here or check deeper inside. But in either scenario, it should continue that way. If it doesn't, like these cases, or maybe we shouldn't even rely on the switches at all, because those switches are really not useful, because they're gonna prevent the process. And if they did that, we're gonna wait anyway for this to happen. The funny thing is how this one is supposed to have a clock, because it's supposed to wait. This is a request on the internet, and sometimes there's a delay, sometimes there is like network issues. They're pretty risky here on just relying on internet stuff here and expecting it to get a result like right away. That's not going to happen. Either way here, there is no return, so I'm not worried, because this operation is just gonna go through the whole thing. It's not gonna stop. Nothing will stop it at this point. Oh, this is just decision making, but nothing is actually preventing the for each from continuing. This will prevent the do once, and that's why I haven't added the switch here, because I really don't care what Google says at this point. I requested the download. If you have the download, give it to me. If you don't have the download, then I'm just gonna keep asking, until you give me the download. As far as like if I made a mistake, then I will check those mistakes by debugging along down the road. Okay, if anything happens at this point, I will find out about it at this point. You get it? Because this would give me like a switch and I'll be able to read the issue. Okay. So removing chunks and adding chunks and all that stuff, that's pretty cool. When do we trigger the timer? That is the question here that we all waited for. The function is going to continue checking at the end, like every time we go through a chunk list, basically a type. We could even like do types instead. So every time they're like all the types are done, right? We're gonna go ahead and so this one right here is the return. Okay, this is the one that we could, when it's all done, yeah, it's kind of like the whole thing. This is when it's all done. We're gonna go ahead and say, you know what, this is all done. It's time for us to let my my await, the mount await thing. I don't think I'm using it, but I am, and I have it used here on the chunks, which is okay on the chunks, but it's gonna be called multiple times. That's fine, that's even better, because it's gonna be cold, and every time it gets cold, it's just gonna reset the timer. It's gonna make the timer wait longer, which is okay, because in the end, you're just calling it once. So every time this gets cold, it resets this time. So you're good. And then we get to wait for all the chunks, for all the types, and then once they're, you know, downloaded, it's gonna get installed. All the stuff that we did here, it's really not necessary, but the types are being removed here. So we're removing that type. The problem with that is that this would remove the entire type from download. It's not really a big deal, because it's just gonna keep checking, because we're not really relying on download anymore on any way, but every time you start the game, this would just keep checking. So you don't want that one. So instead of like doing the chunk idea that we did here, we're no longer gonna be doing this part, because we already did it on the outside. Okay, we're doing it like this now. Okay, so that is all just some debugging information, checking if there is any more downloads in that type. If it's empty, then we're no longer in need of it. We should get rid of it. Okay, so this is just a simple check that has nothing to do with anything. It's just it looks a lot, but it's just it's not really. Okay. This is just getting some basic information, and it's going to remove it, and it's necessary. Instead of having all the wires that we had before, this is like less wires, less white wires, I think. Less wires, actually more wires, and that's it. This is it. This is it. So this is probably going to be the system that would handle the Google communication. It's also capable of being used. All you have to do is replace those functions, by the way, with your own, and you'll be able to use it in Windows, Xbox, whatever you want, whatever SDK you have, or just a simple function. HTTP with REST API calls, simple VA REST, you could do the whole operation, because this is only downloading. It's doing nothing for you. and the switches is useless. So like you see here, we're not even using them. So the only thing this is doing is just downloading assets from Google. You could download it from Google, Amazon, whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. You just use that same function. I call it a function. It's actually a system. let's not lie to ourselves anymore. This is the asset delivery system that would help you download and mount assets to your game automatically without the trouble of, you know, doing anything but setting a bunch of names. By the way, this asset is probably available on the, like something similar to this you can buy from the marketplace for like $100 something. This is free, so unless you don't want to spend the time and to create it yourself, I'll probably would create GitHub at one point and like squash this into a plugin for you guys. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna be doing this, but it's not really a big deal for me if it comes down to it. We'll see though, because it's like I'm not trying to make any promises and then I don't have the time to do things. The only reason why I showed this is because of the documentation was pretty weak, and I thought maybe I could help. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, let's put that to the test. Let's go ahead and package the game, and I have a demo game here that I'm gonna be packaging pretty soon, and we'll see if it works. If it does work with no problem, fine, then that would be the last thing to say about this topic. We're gonna end the packaging set of tutorials, and if it's necessary I would create another one, but I'm not sure if you guys gonna need any help at this point as far as like doing the rest of the packaging things, because the documentation is pretty clear about those part, but everything else as far as like naming and everything, I think we went over that already, and setting the system that would help us achieve this without having to do everything manually, one file at a time, like having 50 files and having them download at different times, different points of it could be like a click of a button. Like this is pretty much that button that you click on, but instead of like clicking a button and process it, and if it doesn't work, click again, this is just going to keep checking for that file until that file is installed and mounted correctly for you. You don't have to do it that way. Of course, you could do it in a much smaller way, and but I found this to be useful for the type of games that I'm going to be making, which is like I want the users to not having to click on anything. As soon as they open their levels, they're already being prepared to download what's next. You don't have to show a downloading bar to them. You could, and I created a function that would help you do this. So this second timer, so this first timer is basically for checking if things are mounted. This one right here is different. This one right here, it's for keeping up with the progress of the download. Okay, so just connecting your connecting those two right here into your widget would give you like the total progress and the total download. Subtract the progress downloading from it would give you what's left, and this would give you the total, this would give you the current progress, and then this would update on a tick, which is like every second. I'm not sure how fast this thing is. It's like no matter how fast it is connected to the internet and it's communicating back and forth with a REST API call. No matter how fast your internet is, it's still a function that calls an HTTP request. It goes through the internet, it goes through the Google, comes back, and it gives you some number. So keep in mind, setting this to something like 0.1, it's a lot of calls. So you don't really need that many calls to keep up with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 100%, you know? You just need 1 second. And if the user's internet is pretty fast, it's gonna jump from 1% to 10% to 30%, which is gonna even make the user experience better because he's not gonna feel like he's waiting too long. That's pretty much it. This one is an await function, and this one is my little unit, which is when the game first starts, I'm gonna keep waiting for this so I could allow the user to authenticate. And this is my little thing here. That's pretty much it. What is going on?